CIA taught us that there's a connection between childhood trauma and high performance. CIA calls you in on the first day of orientation. They sit everybody down. They say, welcome to CIA. You take your oath. And then they basically roll into a whole presentation about how you're all a little fucked up.
So it makes you so great for the job.
And it makes you perfect for the job. And they say, hey, you are all victims of some level of childhood trauma. And that trauma is what has made you who you are today. I just had an awesome weekend at space camp with our son. Yeah. I had no idea it was going to be so much fun.
Really?
Well,
space camp.
Well, I'm not even talking about space camp. The space camp was cool, but the time with him, like the one-on-one time with our son was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we left on Wednesday. We had 2 days in Huntsville, Alabama, just the two of us. And then we had 2 days camping at the Huntsville, Alabama Space and Rocket Center for 2 full days. And that was also awesome. But man, that was 4 days and 4 airplane rides. And like, it was just amazing to be with him uninterrupted for that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know that you've had that before. I had it last year. I sent the kids to different camps, just experimenting. And so I know I had 1 week with Cena alone, but this was the first time I've been with Eli alone. And I was actually a little bit scared to be alone with our 6-year-old.
I'm not surprised to hear that because you guys have an interesting relationship.
Yeah.
I don't really understand sometimes how you view your relationship with the kids, and especially not with our daughter, our youngest.
Yeah.
Because both of you have like chili pepper tempers.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you? Because I can tell you full on, my time with our son, my time with Cena was amazing.
Yeah.
What was it like with Eli?
So on the first day, actually, she voiced what I had been concerned about the last few weeks, where she had like halfway through the day, she was like, Mom, and she's 6, right? Mom, I didn't really know if I would have fun with you. I was like, oh, I was like, why is that, baby? And she's like, I didn't think we would get along. And I was like, oh, and that's exactly what I'd been thinking. Like, what if we don't get along? Because normally we're butting heads, right? Our tempers clash, or like we're just like 2 rams all the time.
Right.
But being alone with her was amazing because I realized what happens is she's a different age and a different temperament. She needs a different level of engagement than our son does. Our son's just so much like me. Like, he wants to put on his audiobook and just go do his own thing.
And I realized that especially because being with him for 4 days, I felt like I was with you. I felt like I was with the best parts of you and the best parts of me.
Yeah.
Because he really is a mix of both of us. But it was really easy for me to be around him because I was like, oh, I know how to be around your mom.
Yeah.
So I know how to be around you. I can tell when you need quiet time. I can tell when you need space away. I can tell when you need, a word of encouragement.
Yeah. So I was concerned because our daughter I felt like our daughter needed like constant engagement. And I'm an introvert. And so I was like, when am I going to get space? But it turned out that she just needs engagement. She wants to know that you're there with her. She had this whole thing, like we went and got mani-pedis together. She had this whole thing about being twinsies and, doing things together. But when we weren't doing things together, she would put on her audiobook and then go do her own thing. And I had a quiet house and it was amazing. And I found that without the distraction and the overwhelm of having more people in the house and of having other things to do, because I also chose not to work when I was with her. So I got to spend really just quality time focused on her. I was so much more patient. She was so much more pleasantly engaging. I didn't get yelled at once in 4 days. I mean, that's a record, And
she yells.
She yells.
She yells a lot.
Yeah.
She yells a lot, and I'm realizing that, I've suspected that she yells to compete. Yes. Because she's 6, her brother's 10. So if she wants to be heard over him, because he just goes on he'll just talk. He'll talk about his day. He'll talk about his ideas. He'll just talk. And the only way she can be heard is to yell over him. Yeah. And then he's also kind of a sensitive boy. So sometimes she'll yell like as a verbal way of punching him.
Yeah. Like a verbal punch in the face.
And I swear she does the same thing to you, that like you interpret her volume and it aggravates your, I mean, it seems to affect your anxiety. It makes your anxiety spike. It seems to affect your like emotions. When she's loud, it hurts you.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think our time kind of apart and then our solo time with the kids during this trip really gave us amazing reflection time because I was able to reflect on, why does she yell? How does it actually make me feel? Why does our son react the way he does to things? And, I didn't grow up in a house where we yelled. Yelling wasn't a thing you did. We lived in a one-story house. The rule was you walk over to talk to somebody. The only time we got yelled at is when you were actually in trouble. And then really, it was really my mom, like with a wooden spoon, smacking it on the table, like threatening you, Yeah, it was great. So the yelling really has been like a trigger for me. But I know that I also yell.
Yeah. Yeah. When you lose your temper, when you lose your cool, you absolutely.
It's like a volcano exploding.
It is. Yeah. I mean, and it's always been that way with you. You've always been the person who's kind of slow to anger, but when you tip, it is
that's it.
Big mess. It's a big molten lava mess.
Yeah.
And I know it took me a little while to get used to that when we were dating. And then I think since we've been married, I've kind of learned how to bring you up to boil, but not make you boil over.
Yeah.
The kids don't know how to do that though.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, one of the things that I talked about with Sina when we were gone was asking him why he feels the need to be so apologetic. And we've talked about this.
Yes.
Because our son he has a tendency to over apologize.
Yeah. For the last at least year, I've noticed this really serious over apologizing.
Right.
Which I do.
Yep.
And I know why I do it. Like I know, from my childhood why I am the way I am. But I was like, why is my son doing it? And I thought, well, maybe I'm modeling it. Right.
And
but our daughter doesn't over apologize.
Correct. And what we're talking about here is his answer to almost every challenge is, I'm sorry.
Yep. Everything. If you say, hey, baby, can you, pick up your shoes? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll do it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Please don't eat this, or please don't go there. Or can you please call me when you, sorry. Yes, sorry. Like it's just, it comes out so fast. And you're right. Yeah. Like you also do that.
Yeah.
And it's always been kind of aggravating to me because I'm not correcting you.
Right.
I'm not saying that you've done anything wrong. I am literally just sometimes asking for a favor, sometimes just challenging your point of view, right? CIA believes that all people are born with a spy secret superpower. For some people, that means they can win deals. For others, they can spot liars. Some can even seduce lovers. I built a free 3-minute test to help reveal to you exactly what your secret hidden superpower is. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, take the test, and start using your spy superpower to stay ahead of 99% of people. Ask probing for a little bit more, right? Tell me why you want to go see the new Sonic movie. Yeah. Sorry, Dad. I really think, I would like to know why you want to see the Sonic movie. There's no apology needed.
Right. And that's the key is there's no apology needed. You're apologizing for something that requires no apology. And then I started reading about, my concern was what is behind that? Yeah. I'm sorry. Right. Because
how did it happen for you? You said that why you do it? Why do you do it?
Well, for me, I grew up in a household where, my mother ruled the house. And, I just remember there were little things like, B was for bad, right? I remember that my mom saying that, like, if you brought home a B from school, like, B is for bad.
For real?
Yes.
B is for bad?
And I was a high performer. Yeah. I was a high performer like throughout elementary school, and then middle school got harder because I started going into these advanced programs and the coursework got harder, and then my social life started to get in the way. But there was like a very high expectation of the way that you were supposed to be. And I was expected to fall in line, right? Yeah. Like my mom grew up in a household where children were seen and not heard, and, spare the rod and spoil the child. And she didn't raise us that way, but you could see through her parenting that that's the background she came from. And there was still an element of authoritarianism in the house. And I have the kind of personality that it's easy for me. I want to people please. And so it's easy for me to fall into that over apologizing to try to please people. The problem is that the more you apologize when you are not supposed to be apologizing, the more your self-esteem takes a hit, right? Because suddenly you hear yourself like you are saying, I'm sorry so often that you start to internalize that you are actually sorry. Like it's your fault. Like you're to blame, that you are the problem.
Yeah.
And that's not accurate at all. And so when I started seeing our son do it, I was like, we have to nip this in the bud. Like whatever the cause is, we have to stop it and reverse it for the sake of his future. Right?
Yeah. It's funny, and it's not funny, but but I call it funny. Like in my household, B wasn't for bad. B wasn't anything that made people proud of you.
Yeah.
And my mom was someone I was always trying to make proud.
Yeah.
I was always trying to make my stepdad proud too. I mean, it was just, I don't think that guy, he was in his own world the whole time that we were kids, which I'm also starting to relate to as a parent.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard
to
like pull yourself out of your own world and recognize that your kids have their own world too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I spent a summer grounded because I brought home a C in math.
Wow.
I lost my whole summer because I brought home a C, and I'll never forget that. That was a hard lesson for me, right?
Yeah.
And then I grew up in a household where we were hit. I grew up in a household where I was hit. My sisters, my half sisters, sometimes had a different experience. But I mean, I was hit with hands. I was hit with leather belts.
Yeah.
I was hit with whatever people could get their hands on. I was scratched and clawed sometimes, right? When we were in the car for a long road trip, if my mom couldn't grab something fast enough, she would just reach back and scratch me.
Yeah. And your mom was raised in a household where
everything was very competitive.
Yeah, very competitive. Yeah. And there was, physical discipline. I think your stepdad's older than your mom. He's old school. Like, I think physical discipline, I'm guessing, was a part of his household too.
Yeah. Well, and I think what I'm noticing here, and I mean, it wasn't necessarily like a therapist that helped us through this, but CIA taught us that there's a connection between childhood trauma and high performance. And it's a really humbling day when CIA calls you in. And that's how it works. CIA calls you in on the first day of orientation. They sit everybody down. They say, welcome to CIA. You take your oath. And then they basically roll into a whole presentation about how you're all a little fucked up.
So it makes you so great for the job.
And it makes you perfect for the job. And they kind of throw it in your face right away. And they say, hey, you are all victims of some level of childhood trauma. And that trauma is what has made you who you are today. And it's a powerful lesson to realize that childhood trauma, the stuff that makes our childhood so painful, is actually what makes us stronger and more resilient as adults. It's what makes us successful. For those people who have it, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those people who are raising children, we're all asking ourselves the question of, are we raising soft children? Are we raising hard children? Are we raising successful children? Are we raising children that are going to fall behind? Yeah. And I know for you and I, we are always wondering how do we raise our children in a way where they will succeed without having to cause the trauma that we have been taught is so vital to their success.
Right. And I think, trauma is, one word, but I think, really it's adversity, right? And like trauma is a way that adversity can come into your life. But you have to be so careful because like we've seen with our son, like when you asked him, when did you start over apologizing, right?
Yeah, he said he was about 7 years old.
Yeah.
It was so interesting because when I asked him, when do you start remembering saying you're sorry for everything? And he specifically, like almost instantly, he was like, I was about 6 or 7, which was only, 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened when we were 6 or 7? I don't remember what happened what was the light switch?
And I knew exactly what he was talking about because when he was 7 was when we moved back to Tampa from the UAE. It was during COVID and we had to leave. And
left our nanny,
we left our nanny, we
left our
left our whole lifestyle,
Yeah.
our whole support network. And it was like right in the middle of the pandemic and everything was shut down. And so we had to catch, like we spent months just trying to catch a flight to get to America because they had repatriation flights that they would fly you just anywhere in the country. So, we had tried to fly into DC. That flight was canceled.
Yep.
Tried to fly into someplace
Chicago.
else. Yep.
I
And
remember
so we
that.
ended up catching a repatriation flight into Chicago, landing there after 15 hours. We had to get an apartment from the UAE. You were looking,
I
so
remember that.
it was just really hard. Like it was sight unseen. We showed up and, we took what we could get. Like we were trying to buy a used car at the time, which was like almost impossible. So there were all these challenges happening. And then when we came back, we had no support network because we had to come back so fast. And you were still working full time, right? You were still building the business. And then I ended up being with the kids and it was really stressful for me. And so I know exactly what he's talking about because that was the time when I started to yell. And it never happened when you were home because when you were home, you were my buffer, right? So when you were home and I was about to lose it, I could walk away and there was another adult there.
Right.
But when I was by myself and I was trying so hard, but there were just moments that like I couldn't even anticipate that I was going to lose my temper because I was like, I'm doing good. I'm taking my deep breaths. I took 5 minutes. I'm just going to step out on the porch. And then suddenly it's just, one more time, the 5th time that I've asked you guys to brush your teeth and you have either yelled at me no or you have completely ignored me and then bam, yelling. And then it's like, we've talked about it, like an actual volcano.
Yeah.
Like it's not
It
just
burns.
a yell, right? It's this deluge of like lava that comes out, like just this word vomit of like, you guys never listen to me and blah, blah, blah. And I'm so stressed out and your dad's not here just with you, just on and on, right? Which to a child, like they can't conceptualize at all what you're going through. So it was
and he was 7. He was 7.
Yeah.
And Eli was
3. So she has no recollection, I am certain. But he does. And that was a really pivotal point for him, right? And so we can see that my actions and that adversity that I caused for him, has created this over apologizing that down the line will not create grit, right? That's not going to be helpful for him. So I think, one of the things that I'm thankful for that the CIA has taught us is ongoing assessment.
Right.
Like we are continually assessing our parenting impact on the kids. I think, I think a lot of people parent, the way that they were parented and they don't think about it and they think, I turned out fine. I mean, I know our parents are always, we've all heard that. My kids turned out fine, right? But for you and I, like we're constantly assessing over time the impact that we have on our children.
Yeah.
And because we are making that constant assessment, we can pick up on things like this early on to mitigate and, stop the adverse effects of our actions and turn it around and try to do something better. And, like I want to create adversity for our children, but positive adversity, right? So they can get some grit in there and so they can, have jobs where, when the going gets tough, like, how many like Delta Force guys have we met that the stories I've heard from them are so incredible. And they go through that. And, I've been told that, they have psychologists that they speak to before they go out on a mission, when they come back from a mission, but they still have to process all of that, right? So what are these personality traits? I mean, I feel like so many parents, that's the question. How do you properly prepare your children for the adversity that's to come?
So I feel like you just gave us a lava deluge of a sort right there. You went into like 4 awesome things.
Passionate about all the stuff I've done wrong. It feels so horrible to be like, oh my God, I'm the one. Like, I have to stop. Like, I have to fix my yelling problem,
So it's interesting because I think you're right that, 2020-ish was when life got really difficult for us because we were on a big, very lucrative contract overseas. And we came back to the US and it was in the middle of COVID, just like you said, everything was difficult. And the business was not slowing down. The business was expanding.
Yeah.
So I was gone.
Yeah.
I remember those days. I remember those months traveling during COVID, which were some of my favorite months to travel because the airports were empty, the airplanes were like the hotels were empty. Everybody was on their best behavior.
Yep.
But I mean, that was months away from home. And I remember you telling me that it wasn't easy when I was gone. And I always just kind of assumed that what you meant is it wasn't easy for you. I never imagined that I was gone. And what that meant is that you were losing your temper with the kids.
Yeah.
Yelling at the kids, reprimanding the kids, like that your stress was being manifest and projected onto them.
Yes.
And it didn't strike me until Sina met, and his over apologizing is something I've noticed, but it was something you really kind of turned me onto. You were like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And I think you know it because you've grown up that way. You're 43 years old now,
Yep.
and you still say you're sorry about things that don't have they're not your fault. Yep. So you saw this in him. We started exploring it in him. And I mean, it was hard to hear him say like, yeah, it was about 7 years old. And then as soon as I mentioned that to you, you knew it was because I mean, essentially you were abusing the kids with your own words and your own actions.
Yep.
And he remembers that.
Yeah.
That is super heavy. And I hope you don't feel like I'm blaming you because what I'm feeling is that I was absent and my absence is what started that whole thing.
Yeah.
Because you from the time we got married, you told me, don't ever make me a stay-at-home mom.
I did.
Don't ever leave me alone with the kids. Like you were telling me that before we even had kids. And yet somehow, after all of that conversation, we still found ourselves in a situation where we did exactly what we told each other and ourselves not to do.
So what's really fascinating is, when you're at the agency and you're planning a mission, right? We always have contingencies, right? The reason that, officers that go out into the field are trained the way that they are so that they can make decisions in the field on the fly, right? Because situations change. And I feel like if you look at our life, that's exactly what's happened. I married you because I thought you were going to be like,
I don't even know if I want to hear this.
I was like, he went to like a military academy. He was in the military. Now he's in the government, like golden. Like here's this steady guy. We're going to have like government jobs and retire with a pension and do, the whole 9 to 5 and commute, 3 hours to work and whatever. And, put our kids in school and be, the whatever. And, the family that they make sitcoms about. But instead, our life has completely pivoted, right? So not when we got married, I would say when we decided to have kids, in my mind, I was like, I will have kids because Andy is my partner, right? I always knew I would only ever have kids if I had a partner to support me because I had a dog once and I learned the hard way that when I am stressed out and I'm alone, it's not good. Like I can't handle the stress of caring for another living creature if I don't have support. So I was like, Andy's going to be there. Andy's going to co-parent. We're good. And then we stepped away from CIA. We stepped into the business. We had another kid, right? Yeah. So now we have 2. And now the business requires you to travel. And now I'm alone with the kids.
With 2 kids.
With 2 kids.
With 2 little creatures that depend on you.
So I feel like now we're in like the portion of the mission where we got on the ground, right?
The primary plan has failed.
Yes, exactly.
The alternate plan has failed.
Exactly.
And what is our contingency plan?
Right. So now we're really having to like reassess the situation and be like, you know what? Because I think in the beginning we were like, travel's going to slow down. Travel's going to, like maybe not stop it. It'll slow down and I'll be home a lot more and whatever. And the truth is that our business continues to grow at a rate where that's just not possible. Right. At least definitely not for the next year, maybe not for the next 3 years. Yeah. And our kids are still little, right? And I'm still me. Like my core personality traits aren't going to change.
Right.
So now we have to, we have to figure out, how do we approach this mission of raising children while growing a business in a way that will make us successful, that will, make sure that the kids are successful, that we are successful. Like, how do we do this now? Because it's not at all the way that we had originally planned it, but now we're in it. So we have to plan on the fly, right? Which I think the CIA gave us like really amazing training and skills to be able to do that.
And what's interesting is the agency taught us that there's a connection between childhood trauma and high performance. Mm-hmm. And then we tried so hard not to cause trauma.
Yeah.
Only to find out that we are causing trauma.
Yep.
Like what has happened to our son that has led him to over apologize is the definition of childhood trauma.
Absolutely.
My traveling, my being gone for some of the core years in our daughter's life, the reason that she's so sweet and so attached to me is in part because I have caused her trauma. So even in our every effort not to cause trauma,
right,
we are causing trauma.
Right.
And we know that the trauma we cause will potentially lead to a high-performing adult in our children. So 2 questions. My first question is, now that you have kind of come to the realization that you have traumatized our son with your temper, how do you feel about that?
I feel horrible. I feel like an absolutely horrible person.
Even though you know that the trauma that you've given him is going to be what translates into part of his success in the future.
I think it's only going to translate if I pivot now, right? Like, I think if I were to continue down the path that I have, where when you leave, I try to be super mom, and then it never works out because I am in no way a super mom. So if I continue down that path and let myself continue to have these explosions randomly where the kids can't predict and they don't understand, I think that type of trauma will be detrimental to them. I don't think it will lead to high performance and success.
So then my second question is, what would you say to other parents who have also kind of landed on the same conclusion? All the traveling parents, all the temperamental parents, all the tired and exhausted parents who realize that their behavior is having a negative effect on their children. What would you say to them?
I think that you have to the resources you have access to are different for everybody. But I think the first step is the assessment, right? You have to make an assessment. You have to take all the data that you have. So you have to sit down and think about, what actions are you taking that are affecting your children? And then you have to think about, why is that happening, right? So I know that I just get overwhelmed. If I don't have somebody else there to help me, I get overwhelmed on my own by the 2. So once you have the data, you can start making, and you've made the assessment, the initial assessment of, what's happening and why, then you can start thinking about, how can I mitigate this? And I think you recently came up with this really amazing idea, because you're so good at thinking outside of the box. And I'd never thought about it before. I was like, I just need to get a nanny. There's full time. That's 8 to 5 and whatever. And then the other day you were like, maybe you should just get a cook, because cooking for the kids really stresses me out.
Essentially, what I thought of is that we've hired nannies. We've been hiring nannies for our children since 2019.
Yeah.
And it hasn't improved your temperament.
Right.
So then I think the idea I landed on, and I'm a little embarrassed to tell you, is maybe I should just get a nanny for you.
Oh, that's not a...
But that was my thought. Yeah. My thought was, the children don't need a nanny. The children need a mom who won't make them feel bad about being kids.
Yeah.
And you want to be the kind of mom that doesn't make them feel bad about being kids. But the problem is that them being kids drains all of your assets, drains all of your resources. It drains your energy. It drains your time. And then it just compounds with all the complexities of being a mom. So my thought was, what can I do to basically support all the mom stuff that drains you?
Yeah.
All the cooking, all the cleaning, all the planning all the organizing, right? The grocery shopping, yada,
Yeah.
yada. I was like, if I could take that away from you, then theoretically, you still want to be a mom. You just don't want to be a stressed out mom.
Yeah. And you know, when I was a targeter, you know, I think I've talked about, you know, I loved targeting because it was so focused. I could just focus on one thing and go down the rabbit hole and be there for 8 hours. With the kids, nothing is focused, especially when you have two. Like everybody's asking you for something at the same time, all day. And so it's just overwhelmed for me. But once you had this idea, like once you voiced this idea of like, maybe you should get a cook, suddenly it opened up the floodgates of all this alternate solutions that we could do.
Yeah.
So we've thought about like, maybe we can get a cook. Maybe we can get
a tutor.
Maybe we can just have somebody come and, you know, take the house cleaning off your hands. Maybe, I mean, I had the thought the other day, I was like, maybe I should hire somebody, a nanny, who covers the kids, not from 8 to 5, but from 12 to 8. Because you know what, in the morning, we have awesome energy with the kids. Like I love mornings with the kids. But that's that nighttime that I'm stressed out and I'm tired and I don't have the patience. So if I had somebody to take them from lunch to brushing their teeth and then I took them the rest of the way, like that would resolve a lot of my stressful hours with them, right? Like there's so many solutions. And I think, you know, at the agency we do this too, where we'll have these brainstorming sessions where you just throw everything up on the board, right? You whiteboard it out, you put everything up there, and then you sit back and you think, you know, you discuss like what can we actually do, right? But just put all that crazy stuff up there because maybe it'll work.
Yeah, I mean, it was CIA that taught me that every good idea starts from a bad idea.
Yeah.
So you have to say your bad ideas.
Yes.
So that other people can take your bad ideas and brainstorm them into good ideas.
Yeah, your crazy idea might not be that crazy. Seriously. I mean,
it's true.
how many like operations have gone forward that started from an idea that at first you're like, that's nuts. But then you have something there.
Yeah. I mean, and there's been plenty of ideas that have not gone well too.
Yeah, that's why you put on a whiteboard first. Yeah, exactly.
But I think the thing that's so interesting to me is that we were talking about how these elite operators from Delta to the Navy SEALs to CIA, they're forged in this fire of hardship.
Yes.
Right. And there's a balance in trauma. When we talk about childhood trauma, I want to be clear, there's a very specific area of trauma, right? So if trauma is on if you put childhood trauma on a spectrum, right? Here you have no trauma at all. And here you have a great deal of trauma, right? Like think about the most horrendous things that happen to children.
Yeah.
Right? So from 0 to the most horrendous acts ever. Essentially, the childhood trauma band where high performance happens is like just off of the middle, closer to the low trauma side, right? CIA is looking for people who had an absentee parent. They're looking for people who had a busy mom or dad who was active in their job or active in their career, where the only way that the child would get mom or dad's attention is by doing something good, right? By high performing. The child who followed the rules, the child who became very compliant with the school, the child who won the awards in band and the awards in track, and they're not looking for awesome superheroes. They're looking for people who directed their energy into a very narrow area to win approval from someone else, win approval from mom, win approval from dad. They're looking for those people who had a parent die or had parents that got divorced or multiple divorces. We've known friends who had parents who were drug addicts and the kids had to keep themselves alive and their parents alive, still within that band of trauma. Because those people are when they become adults, there is no end to what they are capable of doing in order to survive and to make ends meet. On the low end of trauma, you have all the people who never really had to deal with that, right? Mom and dad always loved them. Mom and dad always kind of said nice things to them. Their life was easy. So now as adults, they assume like life is easy.
Yeah.
This is just the way it works. This is where I fit into the world. So I don't have to overachieve. I can just minimally achieve, and that's the way it works. And then you've got the larger band of people who've had too much trauma.
Yeah.
Right? So much trauma that they've developed unhealthy coping mechanisms to deal with that trauma, or they've been like mentally or physically altered
Yeah.
in some way, PTSD,
Yeah.
some sort of, physical trauma that has
brain injuries. Yeah.
Yeah, that has made them not neurotypical.
Yeah.
So the band of high performance that's tied to childhood trauma is a very narrow band. And there's a ton of people who are in that band. And I think one of the things that's been most fascinating to me is when we come across those people in our lives and in our business. Because now that we have seen and worked beside elite operators who have become elite because of their childhood trauma, and we've seen how they've kind of accepted their trauma. For so long, we fight it, right? I remember when I used to complain about my dad beating me with a belt.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of like, oh, it's a little fucked up, but I'm kind of glad he beat me with a belt. Like, I learned to respect a belt.
Yeah.
And I also learned that, like, you have to kind of grin and deal with it sometimes. Like, sometimes you just have to bear the pain to get to the other side of the finish line. There are so many people out there who have never been hit by their parents who have no idea what that's like.
Well, maybe in the younger generations. I would say in our generation, yeah.
I mean, there's 5 generations alive right now.
Yeah.
Right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess there's always 5 generations alive, but to be the third oldest generation and see
in the middle there.
Yeah, right? We hire 2 generations below us.
Yeah.
The parents who raised us are 2 generations above us. Like, it's nuts to see all of it happening right now. But yeah, so that the idea that childhood trauma is what makes you a high performer, and to think that no matter how hard you work to keep trauma away from your children, there is still a benefit to the trauma that gets through. Because you're not creating soft, weak children unless they are truly, like, nearly trauma-free. So all those parents who work their ass off, all those parents who are building a career, building a business, who feel bad at night, or they feel bad in the office about missing bedtime or whatever else. Yes, they are traumatizing their children to a certain extent. Oh, but that trauma is going to make their child so much stronger as an adult.
And I think studies have been done that talk about how different people handle the trauma differently, right?
Yeah.
There's a spectrum. And so, government agencies and the military have the benefit of being able to choose the strongest, right? Or I don't know if the strongest is the right word, but
they can put you through a battery to identify the optimal combination.
Exactly. The people who have the personality, the temperament, the mental grit, whatever you want to call it, that helps them overcome the adversity and the trauma that they've faced in their life, right? Because by the time they get to the government level, they've spent, they're adults. They've spent their life and they have proven that they can do that, right? But when you're a parent and you're raising kids, you have to keep in mind too that your kid might not be that kid, right? Your kid might not be the kid who's going to make a good, who's going to be a part of the Delta Force, right? Like, it's just not everybody is that.
Right.
And so, it's important to, like we were talking about before, be assessing along the way the level and type of adversity that your kids are being exposed to, because your kid might be less tolerant, might have, less ability to overcome the same adversity that their sibling can, right? I mean, I hear about the stuff that you've gone through in your life, and I think to myself, I don't know that I would have come out the same way as you did.
It's funny because the reason you said that part of the reason you married me was because you thought I was going to be this stable, predictable government employee.
I was like, Andy's childhood was kind of messed up, but he's like perfect. Like, there's nothing wrong with Andy.
For you.
I was like, he's got no baggage.
But when I married you, I was marrying you because you had this incredibly loving family.
Yeah.
Like, when I met you in your 20s, you weren't a kid anymore, right? And not only were you not a kid, you had achieved all the stuff that your mom slapping the table with her wooden spoon had told you to achieve.
I had made it.
Yeah, you had made it. You checked all the boxes.
Yes, I did.
And I was like, this woman is amazing and her family is amazing. And it wasn't until I then married into your family and became a son in your family that then I started seeing the trauma for myself.
Yeah.
Then I started seeing like, oh, this family is ruled by your mom and like your dad has come to his own relationship with how that dominance works and seeing it, firsthand and feeling it firsthand from our wedding all the way through to like, how we raise our own kids. Like we're constantly questioned about the choices that we make with our kids too.
Yeah.
So it is really fascinating. But I want to make sure that we leave time to answer a question. I think we have a great question for today that came from one of our viewers. One of the comments recently asked us the question, how do you discipline your children? How do you discipline your own children? And there was some other context in the question, to make sure that it wasn't too much discipline or too little discipline or making sure that one didn't feel like the other one was getting it easy and one was getting it too hard. But I love this question because thanks to you and thanks to your own experience being alone with your dog, and I remember some of the sad stories that you've told me about owning a dog when you were alone and single. You were very focused on this question of having a discipline strategy for the kids long before we even had kids.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to kick it to you. In your own words, how do we discipline our kids?
So before we had kids and when we were pregnant with our first, we read a lot of books because I definitely wanted I wanted us to be on the same page. And I didn't want, what happens is when people are under stress, they revert to
what they know.
What they know, what
they're
familiar with.
Is what their parents did to them.
Exactly. And neither one of us wanted to do that. And so we read a bunch of books and decided on a strategy together. And so the way that we discipline our kids really is kind of through hugs.
It's a great way of describing it.
So there are, so we do, like raise our voice sometimes, like sternly and say, don't do that or stop doing that or whatever. Like in the moment, I try not to raise my voice because if I raise my voice at all, then it might turn into a yell. So so you do a good job of like raising your voice to a level that gets their attention. I generally try to get close to them so they can hear me, and I get their attention by putting my hand on their arm or by, making sure they're making eye contact with me when I'm speaking to them. But then it flows into a physical contact, like touching their hand, touching their arm, their shoulder, even holding them, and then talking about whatever it is.
Right. So you're talking, what you're describing is loving touches.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that it's clear because sometimes I feel like you talk and it's not very clear.
Okay, please. I mean, that's why I married you. You're my translator.
But I mean, what we practice is something that came from a book called Unconditional Parenting. And it's the idea that at all times, through any disciplinary effort we apply, we need to make sure the kids understand that they are loved unconditionally.
Right.
So we never want to discipline them in a way that makes them feel like we are taking our love away because they did something bad.
Right.
Instead, we're trying to always engage them. I love that word that you used earlier. We're trying to always engage them in a loving way to have a discussion about the choices that they made.
Right.
And we have that benefit because our kids are homeschool kids and they stay with us and they're around us all the time.
Right.
So I have always loved the fact that somehow you are able to do that and just get in close, and you always know when to hold them, when to hold their hand, when to touch their shoulder, when to have them sit in your lap, and you'll just sit there with them and you'll let them cry and you'll let them scream and you'll let them do whatever they want to do until they calm down, and then they can have a meaningful conversation with you. Well, and then for me, you're right. I use a stern voice to interrupt them. Yeah. And a part of the reason I do that is to interrupt their thought process because they spiral, right? Yes. Children spiral. Yeah. Just like you spiral.
Yep, that's exactly.
And sometimes all it takes is a voice that's just louder than normal, but not loud enough to be an attack, to just get them to stop the spiral for just a second, right? A cognitive interrupt.
Yeah.
So that you can then give them express instructions. Tell me what happened. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me why you made that choice.
Yeah.
Always with an eye towards making sure they feel and accept the love that we have for them, despite whatever error they may have made.
Yep. And the other book I read that I found really helpful was The Whole Brain Child. And I've actually read a number of books by that same author. And part of what's been helpful is it's helped me understand my own brain, and because I also have really big emotions. And so sometimes the verbal doesn't come right away. So, I've found with the kids, like when they are emotionally hijacked, you're not going to be able to ask them what's wrong. You have to wait for them to calm down, which is why we just hug and we hold each other and they just calm down, or we'll sing a song or just something to get everything to calm down, because I'm exactly the same way. And I would say, just because, we've talked about it, in this last hour, that when I yell at the kids, I am not disciplining them. My yelling at the kids is in no way, shape, or form me attempting to discipline them. Me yelling at the kids is me losing my temper. Right? It is not the right thing to do, and it is very counterproductive, because then I end up spending the rest of the night, or the rest of the next 2 hours, walking that back. Right? Reconnecting with them, apologizing, talking about what happened and why I exploded. Right? So.
That's all the stuff we wish our parents would have done to us.
Yes. There is so much value in apologizing to your children.
It's so true.
So much value.
I make mistakes all the time, and I tell them, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have said this. This is what's happening in my life.
Yes.
This is what's happening with the business. This is what's happening with mommy. This is what's happening with me. My stomach doesn't feel good. My head doesn't feel good.
Right.
And I yelled at you and I shouldn't have. Or, I got lazy and I made a bad dinner, whatever it might be. Telling them what's really happening has been incredibly valuable.
Yes.
So one of the things that CIA taught us is that all adults are really just large children, right? Like adults behave just like children with 30 years of experience,
right?
But we're still children on the inside. And if you can understand the child inside each adult, you can essentially control the adult.
Yeah.
And that's what's become kind of a superpower for us in our professional lives and our personal lives and even in our relationship with each other. Because when I talk to you, I understand I'm not talking to 43-year-old Jihi. Nope. I'm talking to like 9-year-old Jihi. Yeah. And I know that when you talk to me, you understand you're talking to like a 9-year-old version of me.
Yeah. Who needs a hug?
Who just, a hug fixes so many things. It's so true.
Yeah.
So when we talk to our children and when we discipline our children, so much of that is tied to the fact that we understand who we are talking to right now.
Yeah.
Is the 25-year-old adult.
Yeah.
Is the 45-year-old mother or father. Is the 70-year-old grandfather or grandmother. Yeah. They are who they will always be. And we are shaping their future with every minute that we interact with them. Yeah. And I think that's why we try to discipline them through a lens of love, because we know what it's like to be disciplined without that love. Always wondering if you did something so bad that your parents don't love you anymore.
Yeah. And I think patience has a lot to do with it as well, right? Like when we talk about disciplining, it's not like we give our children a hug and then they don't do it again. Yeah. Right? I mean, you have to understand that they will do it again. Yeah. Right? Well, I do things over and over again that I shouldn't, right? So, you just have to be patient with them and understand that it's going to happen again. You're going to have the same conversation again. Like they really didn't mean to spill the milk. I promise you. Yeah. It's okay, right?
So, folks, thank you so much for joining us today. We had a great conversation. I don't think we intended for it to go in this direction at all. We just we found ourselves honestly talking about what childhood was like for us and what childhood is like for our kids. And we hope that you found value in that. Please leave your comments below, especially if you have any thoughts at all as to how you were raised, how you wish you were raised, or how you raise your own children. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you do. What do you do right? What do you feel like you do wrong? Did anything we mentioned today resonate with you specifically? And for those of you out there who know you have had childhood trauma, who recognize that you have had just that right amount of trauma to be a high performer, I want to encourage you to see that as a superpower, like see that as a benefit for yourself, not as some kind of, hibbity-bibbity life life coaching betterment. Like, no, it's because there are literally people who will never try as hard as you. And then there are people who are mentally incapable of achieving what you achieve. So if you yourself are a high performer, I want you to know that you have found the right place to be here with us, here at Everyday Spy, as part of the Spy Tribe. So leave your comments below, leave your thoughts below, leave your questions for us below. And then, of course, if you want to learn more about how to turn your childhood trauma into something that's super powerful, make sure you click on the links in the description. Come visit us at our homepage. Come take our spy quiz. Come be part of the Spy Tribe and unlock those superpower abilities that you have that you may not even realize that you have. And with that, I guess we'll save our next conversation for the next day. See you soon.